Welcome, Alejandro Litovisky. You with us from Copenhagen. Please share your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I wanted to add to the discussion on the role of nature in financing the race to zero. And let me start by saying this: living organisms are made of carbon, and nature is soaking up carbon dioxide as it grows. It can provide us over 1/3 of the emissions reductions that we need in the next 10 years. And even in many tropical countries, nature could sequester 50% of national emissions. But while we wait, we are losing, we are destroying all the forests, all of the marine biodiversity that would be able to do this. And I don't have to remind you of these incredible statistics that we see all the time, the tremendous loss of species over the last couple of decades. But in 2020, even with the COVID pandemic, the pace of tropical deforestation was even faster than the year before. And most of that deforestation is illegal. So is there even enough nature left to help us through the net zero challenge? And said otherwise, how could we rebuild it in order to help us in that race? Now, forests are today still worth more cut down than left standing. A hectare of tropical rainforest today may generate, around $400 a hectare in terms of carbon credits, but it will fetch local farmers about $4,000, 10 times that amount, by converting that tropical rainforest into a palm oil production. So, nature-based carbon offsets, we are all talking about them. They are very appealing to businesses and finance, and rightly so. But the price that is being paid today for this service is just not high enough to keep nature standing. And we need to start talking about that and doing something about that. So once you have bought a carbon credit from a forest offset, you pretty much need that forest to stay standing forever. Because if that forest disappears, burns down, or is cut down, then there will be double emissions. And this is not the direction that we're heading in at the moment. So, there are hundreds of really good, small, local projects around the world that are investing in nature, that are offsetting carbon through nature, but they're a drop in the ocean compared to the scale, to the speed, the pace that we need, at which we need to move. So I want to talk to you today about a plan to finance our partnership with nature on a totally different scale. Doing this on an exponential scale will require us to look at the value of nature beyond carbon, to consider our dependence on nature to maintain our economies running, to help our cities grow, and to invest in nature as we would invest in other types of infrastructure. And that is the change that is required. Now, last year we started off with mangrove forests, a high carbon productivity asset, which we could call it, which can sequester 4 times more carbon dioxide than tropical rainforests. But we've already lost half of all the mangroves on the planet. Now, for those of you that are wondering what is a mangrove forest, let me just share with you a few pictures. Yeah, this is a mangrove. This is an asset. Now, and mangroves not only sequester carbon, they're also a kind of infrastructure. You can see it. You can see these incredible root structures, and they're providing natural protection against extreme weather events. Now, how big are they? 100 meters of mangroves on the coast can reduce the force of the tidal tsunami wave by 70 to 80%. And mangroves have basically saved some $65 billion in storm damages each year. Now, most importantly, these mangroves are providing cities, coastal cities that are vulnerable to climate change, with a nature-based solution that is far cheaper than building or maintaining a cement seawall. Now think about it. You build a cement seawall. It costs money. It emits lots of emissions through cement, and then you have to spend money in maintaining it. Well, you maintain or you restore these mangroves. They continue to grow forever, and they sequester carbon and provide a nursery ground for commercial fish while they're at it. And that is the logic of nature-based solutions that needs to be much more holistic and targeted. So what we've done is taken these values and proposed the creation of a kind of financing mechanism that we've called the Municipal Mangrove Bond, which is essentially a way for cities to invest in these green infrastructures as a way to adapt to climate change. And this would allow us to create a scaffolding that can replicate this kind of financing on a planetary scale. And so we've mapped where are all the mangroves left, and which are those cities, some of which you see here, that have unique conditions to finance these mangroves as a tool of climate adaptation. Most importantly, as you see down at the right, we're beginning to now work with one of these locations in Brisbane in collaboration with HSBC to pilot and design the world's first municipal mangrove bond. And the power of that is that doing that immediately places you in a blueprint of a large scalable solution that could be replicated in dozens of similar cities around the world. And these cities, they're not only in the north, they're not only in the south, they're across the tropical belt of the planet, and they're together around that frontier. They are Miami in Florida and Mongla in Bangladesh. And these cities need to come together to scale action on this ecosystem at scale. So let me say that the message is clear. We have an opportunity to drive the exponential financing of nature as the cheapest solution that exists for carbon sequestration. This is a vital tool in a race to zero, but and in doing that, we can also restore life on Earth. But we need to be very pragmatic about the limits of the price of carbon today. We need to talk about it, and we need to find solutions. And we need to be very pragmatic about the real threats that nature is facing and the little nature that is left. So going forward, we are replicating this approach with other vital ecosystems that are not properly valued and where that intrinsic value can form part of that scalable solution. We're working with investors, with financial institutions, with governments to operationalize these models and drive them at scale. We invite you to join us, to get in touch. Let's make the global financing of nature a key pillar on the race to zero.